linemen don't get a lot of love in the trading card world, right? So, like, we got these sets we build, and you open these packs. There's not a lot of lineman cards. Now with the NIL, you're seeing these different brands come out, and, like, there's a brand called On It, and they make the whole team sets now. So there could be guys who not even getting on the field got cards right now. So I recognize that in your playing days there wasn't a lot of cards. I did find one. I think it's your only card, man. It's a 2006 Florida Gators All-American set. It's a 57-card set. You're in it, and you kind of got like a lineman pose, too, in it, which I love. We'll post it on the screen here for the viewers to see. But I love the fact that it's an actual, like, lineman pose. It's not like just you smiling or you in a practice jersey, which you typically see. Do you know that card?
I do. Somebody sent me 10 copies of it just a couple of years ago, which was great. I didn't even know it existed until that point, but I did get it. And everybody wanted. My mom was like, "Hey, can I have one?" I was like, "No, these 10 are for me."
Jameel Muhammad and Jeff Cardozo dive into the hobby, which is sports cards, trading cards, as well as all other collectibles, right now on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast, live from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill.
All right, hey, everybody. In the middle of a bunch of holidays, we come back at you from Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. It's a Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Jameel Muhammad, Jeff Cardozo here with you. Happy you have joined us once again. It's been, it seems like a while since we've been able to talk to everybody, but there's been a lot of talking from the sports world.
Yeah.
So many different things going on, which are absolutely insane to talk about. But fantasy football playoffs, when you look at that world, I'm sure that affects the car worlds in many different ways. But I guess when it's all said and done, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm doing great. I heard you had a fun trip to Vegas. You
Yeah, had a really good time.
The Raiders play. You got to go indulge in Las Vegas. So you took a red eye, is what the rumor is. So are you alive? Are you breathing?
So I'm making it this morning. But yeah, first red eye I've ever taken. Normally I get like the bougie stuff and fly with a team and I don't have to deal with some of those things. But Vegas is Vegas.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need a lot of money to do things. But yeah, there's just so much to do, and it's pretty incredible to see everything. And yeah, last minute I was like, "Hey, the Raiders are in town. Let's go watch them."
Why not?
You hype up Bo Nix cards all the time, and I still think he stinks. But
there you go.
Don't buy Bo Nix cards.
Analysis from Jeff right there.
Analysis, yeah.
From Sunday, fresh off the field.
Go pick up Kenny Pickett. He came in and led him on a scoring drive.
Do not go pick up Kenny Pickett if you are listening.
Yeah, do not do that. But yeah, no need to see that stadium. We were there a couple years ago for a bowl game. So it's always different sitting in the stands, but always fun because you hear the comments and people and that was a game, and we're sitting here and we're talking about betting and different things that are going on. It was just like sacrilegious because the Broncos were 9.5-point favorites and they were up 10, and the Raiders, like in the very last minute of the game, end up kicking a field goal, a meaningless field goal, but it completely changed the betting line.
Yep.
So there was a guy that I was listening to from the Rovers, like, he's yelling and screaming. He's like, they cost me $2,000.
Yeah.
All these different things. So
Dave Portnoy from Barstool went on a rant this week about that too.
Really?
Yeah, and I guess he lost a lot of money and big thing. But hey, all you conspiracy theorists out there with the scripts, there you go.
Yeah.
It was in the script.
There it is. All right. Well, so you can certainly get in some hot water and in trouble if you don't bet well or things happen. But there's something going on with PSA too, right? A little hot water. What's going on?
So in the hobby, I think there's always something drama wise, right? And people in the hobby love drama.
Sure.
But this is not necessarily drama, as I think this is an integrity thing right now.
Okay.
And so PSA is being tested. What happened is there was a user, I forget his name, but he had a Pokemon order where he had submitted. And now PSA has this thing where when you get your grades back, before you ship them, they offer you money for their cards, which is great. And I think it's a great way for people to make money and sell cards and maybe fund their hobby, fund their bill for PSA. And so what they do is they give you this little button. You have like 24 hours. You click it and you buy it. So the story is he had PSA 9s, a bunch of PSA 9s of these Pokemon cards that were so-and-so dollars. He took the money for some of them. And then he went back and looked at the cert numbers, and the cert numbers were the same, I think is what the story goes, and the grades were 10s. So they know. Really? So PSA, the story, most people are trying to come up with now is that PSA may be buying cards, maybe, and they could potentially be changing the grades or regrading the cards. So since it's come out, PSA has corrected the issue. They said it was an error. But I think I don't know if people realize how big this situation is in the hobby. There's so many people in the card shop talking about it, so many people just at large talking about it. And again, I don't know what the truth is. If there's more things that are found out and more situations, like it's not just a one-off, then I think we have a major issue there, because you essentially have a governing grading body changing grades on cards that they're buying from people knowingly. That the weird thing was a certain number didn't change, and so I just kind of thought in my brain, like, if you're really trying to do something shady, like why would you do that?
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. I think this is a big deal because PSA just started this program with buying cards back from their customers, probably about less than 6 months old, and I think a lot of people are kind of on the fence about it. Where can I grow grade now? And in the TCG community, much more heightened kind of emotional response. You see this in general with the TCG community, much more emotional kind of reactions to anything that happens there, which is fine. And now I'm watching and I'm listening, and TCG is a massive part of what PSA does, right? So it's just these kind of small little stories and small little reports that come out that can really rock the foundation of these grading companies.
Yeah, and it's obviously unfortunate because I think what we try to do here is educate and make people make smart decisions and right decisions, and how to go doing it the right way. And it's concerning to think about that because there are. I mean, I guess, even being in Vegas and, Sin City, you see all these weird things and stuff that's going on. And you hope that it was maybe just a glitch or an error. But yeah. I think it's very easy to probably trace. And it does, set off that red flag of saying, hey, I can grade this a little bit less, offer this amount of money, and then go back and change it and sell it to somebody else or sell it themselves. And I mean, maybe that's where the fine line is, trying to not make it where they're unable to buy cards, or it's got to be something different. But I mean, you can't do that.
Yeah. So. Well, now that PSA is also throwing their hat in the ring for repack products as well, it kind of adds a layer to this, right?
Sure.
So this is a way for them to source inventory and then change inventory to grow their repack product. And again, I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying that's kind of what the rumor is and what people are speaking about in the hobby. It's a dangerous road, and again, lots of grading companies out there. Lots of things happening. There's probably down the line I can share more from other stories I've had and things that have actually happened to me as well. But I think we're in a time where there's just so much money in cards.
Sure.
Golden auctions again this past weekend, records again, cards. There's a story from a Reddit user. A girlfriend found a Tom Brady card in a box. Asked Reddit, what they should do with it. It was a 1-of-1 superfractor, and it just sold on Golden for $600,000 or $700,000. So these are kinds of things that are happening. You're seeing these high-end cards, a Kobe card, $1.2 million, Ohtani card, $600,000. I mean, we're seeing still this huge influx. So as this money kind of continues to pour in, grading and the integrity of grading, I think, is just so vitally important.
Speaking of Shohei, did you see our last guest, Jack Caglione, pulled a Shohei autograph
Jack
at
is
MLB headquarters?
He is key. He's a key breaker, man.
Yeah.
He should just, I think when he's done with baseball, we don't want to be done with baseball anytime soon.
Yeah, a long time.
But when he's done, 15, 20 years down the road, he's going to have Jack's breaks, I'm sure. You know what I mean? Jack stacks or something like that. It's going to be pretty cool to watch.
Cags' cards.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Maybe a little ring to that. We can work on that.
Yeah,
one.
we'll work on it. And he can sell stuff, buy stuff, do a whole bunch of different things. But selling was something you told me about with Panini. Has that been done yet? Like, what's the status?
Yeah, so that was kind of a thing a couple of weeks ago, where maybe a month ago, where people were talking about they had hired lawyers to help them now maybe sell the business. Michael Rubin, CEO of Fanatics, has come out and said, we don't want to buy Panini. We have no interest in it. And there was this, I think, 95 page document that was either released or there was some talk about it, which Panini has created to try and sell their company, maybe like a sales pitch in a document. And I think what's interesting right now is I don't know the future of where Panini's been great to our shop, our brand. The people there have been amazing. We work with them for years now. And I don't know where they're going. I just think there's kind of this world of the licensing has been lost for basketball. We just saw from the Black Friday and Cyber Monday packs what basketball cards look like now. VJ Edgecombe was in there, and Damian Lillard, they had these cards that they weren't licensed. And so you're kind of getting to see what the non-licensed basketball cards are going to look like. What's going to happen with football next year? What are they going to actually have, in terms of what can they produce? And so will this sale happen? Will it be pennies on the dollar? I don't know what's going to happen, So for a stake in the card world, Panini has been such a big figurehead for so long. We really don't know. And I guess time will tell in the next probably 6 months or so. Are they going to get bought out by somebody? are the brands going to be like, are they just going to be buried and dead?
Away,
Are they completely gone? Do we lose Prism Chrome, Select, National Treasure? I mean, is it gone?
I mean, is it weird opening up a pack and you see that and like there's no team on
Yeah,
the jersey?
I mean,
Like it's got to be
I think it's
for a
weird.
kid especially.
Well, for Panini, because they've had it for so long, and
Sure.
then it's gone again
Yeah.
now. So now you're kind of flipping Topps and Panini, and no one liked the Topps unlicensed stuff. Topps Chrome Basketball comes out this month, and it's going to be licensed, and so we're going to see this drastic shift, in popularity and what people are going to buy. So yeah, I'm not sure, Jeff. I think when you think about Panini, it's just been this kind of powerhouse for so long. They've done so much, to grow the hobby, and they're kind of at this place, this crossroads where I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems like you always know what's happening with TCG, and it just keeps blowing up, and different things are happening. Any news there?
Yeah, so it's shocking to me. So we've been talking about Pokemon forever, right?
Yeah.
This whole year, Pokemon, go catch them all. And the truth is, the market is starting to cool down, and we are seeing probably the fastest increase in product in another TCG, which many people have heard of. It's called One Piece. One Piece is an anime that came out in the 90s. They made 2,000 plus episodes. The Straw Hat, clan and Monkey D. Luffy and all these characters this had this kind of following for years. Well, they just came out with real trading cards about 3 years ago, and the price point on these products, like if you had bought a case of OP01, which is the first set, Romance Dawn, and you had paid, I don't know, probably $1,000 or $2,000 for the case. Those cases, the pre-errata, the first edition of those cases, are selling for $60,000, $75,000 right now.
Wow.
The reprint, I think, are selling for like $20,000. And when we talk about investments, man, like I always tell people, there's single cards, there's autographs, there's also wax. And I think if you really diversify and learn this world, I mean, One Piece, I think, is here to stay. I don't think it's a IP that's going away. It's massive. It's worldwide. It started in Japan, obviously, and in America, people just consume it worldwide too. It's not just America. And so this card game is just through the roof, and we can't even stock it in our shelves.
Wow.
We can't even keep it. And they've made 13, 14 sets, 16, 17 sets. So when I think about this set, like, maybe you're still on the early side of it. Maybe invest some money into some TCG, English specifically. The Japanese ones are overproduced, but English for sure. And it's amazing to see the growth.
Yeah, pretty amazing. And this run we have seen from Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, pretty amazing. And I guess I want to end the first segment with that because I'm curious now. All of a sudden, we may not see Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and that's all we've ever seen, or him in the Super Bowl and doing all these different things. And it's just kind of weird to see Kelsey have that ball go through his hands, and then it gets intercepted, and you're like, oh my gosh, Chiefs probably aren't going to make the playoffs. It's Patrick Mahomes, but now we're seeing some of these younger quarterbacks. Like, is this maybe the shift in Mahomes' cards where all of a sudden, if he doesn't make the postseason, where it stops elevating more and more?
Yeah, I don't know after one season if we're going to see a drastic drop. I do think we'll see a drop, know, and I think if you believe in the Chiefs and Mahomes, Andy Reid, that offense, that the whole, what they got going on, maybe it's a great time to purchase the cards. But I would say if Mahomes doesn't win a Super Bowl in the next, 2, 3, 4 years, the prices that have been baked into his cards are going to come down drastically.
Yeah.
I'd also say the same thing for Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. They were the three quarterbacks in the AFC who, you couldn't say anything bad about them, right? They just kept going up. And this season, it seems like everything's flipping. Allen may be the one who people are high on right now, but they've had a lot of holes in their team all year. They've had some really bad losses, right? So we'll see what happens. I think there's an opening right now in the NFL. You're seeing a lot of young players come up. You brought up Bo Nix. We've talked about Drake May, Caleb Williams. If he doesn't make one bad throw and if he plants his feet and throws out to Kmet, they're first place in the NFC still, right? Or maybe they tie the game at least. So there's a lot of young guys. Jaden Daniels, another guy too, who I think there's a possibility for some real big value, brought through, and we'll see where that goes. I just don't know, but the lack of Mahomes in the playoffs is going to affect, his card market, and for sure there's gonna be a lot of money lost.
Yeah, very strange for sure. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll have our guest, Shannon Snell, a former collegiate All-American, played in the NFL for many years, and now he's one of the big guns in Sonny's Barbecue, a little pit master that is doing some great things all over the country. We'll chat with him when we come back on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
This is Jameel, owner of the Meelypop shop, Gainesville's home for collectibles of all sorts, including every single type of sports cards, whether it be Panini, Topps, Leaf, Upper Deck. We have it. Come on in, get yourself a box, a pack, get yourself some supplies, get into our breaks, get your Pokemon, get your Yu-Gi-Oh! All the other different kinds of TCG products that we carry and shop are always fully in stock. You can find our stuff on our website as well, Meelypops.com. That's another way you can interact with the store, or you can just come into the shop. We're located off 39th Avenue by I-75 behind Walgreens and Sonny's. Stop on by. We're open every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you can check us out on our social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, whatnot, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'd love to see you. Come on out to the shop, have some fun, be a part of the card community here in Gainesville, and always go Gators.
All right, we welcome you back into the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Jeff and Jameel still hanging out in Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We're in the podcast room where, you can get some good food in here. But the guy we were about to talk to is a part of the best food all around. So many different things, but he's a pit master. He's an All-American from his playing days, and he just all-around great individual. So we bring in Shannon Snell now to talk about many, many different things. And Shannon, it's I guess a few weeks after Thanksgiving, things have settled down in the food world to kind of make it back to normal, and then Christmas is about to start, so you're never stopping.
Man, these holiday seasons, man, you just never really get used to them because it's so busy with family and friends. And now a new store down here in Wesley Chapel, I'm just I'm not bored. I tell you that, Jeff. I'm actually very busy, but it's been fun. I love this time of year. It's nice. It's a little bit cooler, right, when it pertains to Florida, but it's nice.
So for those that don't know, Shannon is now running that store in Wesley Chapel, which is probably pretty cool for you because it's only a few minutes from where you grew up, and having that opportunity. I'm sure you always aspired to be in the NFL and do all these different things, but where did the food thing come from? Where did Sonny's all of a sudden make its rear its ugly head to get you a part of that?
So Sonny Tillman, who was the pioneer of Sonny's Barbecue, my dad and my brother and I, every Thursday night before we played football, obviously I'm from Tampa, played at Hillsborough High School. So every Thursday night we would go to Sonny's right off of Bush Boulevard and we would eat at Sonny's. So loved the food there, right? It was my go-to. My brother wasn't, always the barbecue guy, but I always wanted to go to Sonny's. So when I go to Sonny's, I would get all you can eat chicken. That was our thing, right? And we would mix the sauces. I remember even my first 6 months working at Sonny's, that's all I had was chicken. So I probably got sick of it at that point, but that's all I had. But it was those times that I got to spend with them really brought back a lot of cool memories. And when I had the opportunity post football to join the brand, Sonny Tillman, who unfortunately passed away yesterday. It was a tough day. He passed away yesterday, but really was the one that pioneered me wanting to come on. He was a Florida Gator through and through, so it made a lot of sense, right, for me to join the brand because I love cooking. I love barbecue. My grandfather taught me how to do it years before, so I figured it was a natural fit for me. And I didn't think it was going to last this long, but here I am, almost 19 years later, still kicking in the brand.
Well, rest in peace to Sonny. That man, just knowing his story and his legend, right? Is the kids call it aura. That guy, every time you get to meet him, smiling, and what he's done for so many, just schools and for the communities. With Sonny's Barbecue, it's an amazing thing. So, and also, congrats again on this new venture. You never know when we plan these podcasts, who's going to come on, the backstories. Well, from one business owner to another business owner. I remember opening up a shop, in 2018 for sports cards and just kind of all the anxiety and nerves that went with it. But I believed in myself and had that confidence to do it. And I know you're going to have a smashing success down there in Wesley Chapel. Me and Jeff got to come make a trip. Get some all-you-can-eat chicken. Test you. See how we.
You got to. You guys. I haven't seen Jeff in a bit. We were calling some games and for the Friday night rivals. Hadn't seen him in a little bit. So look forward to seeing his smiling face, if you will. You guys come on down and chill out a little bit.
We'll definitely do that. Well, enter my world a little bit. I just kind of brought it up with the sports card space. Linemen don't get a lot of love in the trading card world, right? So we got these sets we build and you open these packs. There's not a lot of lineman cards. Now with the NIL, you're seeing these different brands come out, and like there's a brand called On It, and they make the whole team sets now. So there could be guys who not even getting on the field got cards right now. So I recognize that in your playing days there wasn't a lot of cards. I did find one. I think it's your only card, man. It's a 2006 Florida Gators All-American set. It's a 57-card set. You're in it, and you kind of got like a lineman pose, too, in it, which I love. We'll post it on the screen here for the viewers to see. But I love the fact that it's an actual like lineman pose. It's not like just you smiling or you in a practice jersey, which you typically see. Do you know that card?
I do. Somebody sent me 10 copies of it just a couple of years ago, which was great. I didn't even know it existed until that point, but I did get it. And everybody wanted. My mom was like, "Hey, can I have one?" I was like, "No, these 10 are for me." I'm a little bit selfish with that. It's my All-American card, but I was pretty proud. Anytime you see yourself on, the cards you collected when you were young, because I was an avid card collector. Michael Jordan. I still have Shaquille O'Neal's rookie card. I was a big fan of his. So anytime you can see yourself on a card, it's a special moment to know, hey, you made it in some form or fashion.
So just a quick follow-up to that, being a business owner now and you see the memories that you get to make through food and community and family, how was that back in the day when you used to go get cards from the card shop or from Walmart or Target and the memories you built? Like, is that something that you can immediately zoom back into and think about all those kind of that fun that you had? Like, you just brought up some of it.
Yeah, I used to live over in North Tampa and right off North Barris Avenue. And, right up the street was a 7-Eleven. I remember my brother and I would always ride our bikes. It was right next to Buchanan High School. It was a 7-Eleven. We ride up there and go get a pack of Topps cards, right? Baseball cards. And you have the basketball version, and in the back of every one had that chewing gum that's probably been sitting in there for about 3 months, right? But it was the best chewing gum that you could have versus everything that was on the shelf. And, you didn't know what you had at the time. My dad was an avid collector. He used to have the actual plates where he could screw it in so it would be air protected, and that's what he had. His King Griffey Jr. rookie card, he had that one protected for so long it was in his safe. So my dad and my brother and I, we were avid card collectors just because it was one thing that brought us together, right? My dad, it was able to connect generations. No matter if you were an older guy or if you were like a young kid like us, baseball cards are baseball cards, or basketball cards are basketball cards, or in this specific case, even Walter Payton's rookie card, we still have that one. So it was some of that stuff is just so nostalgic that it brings you back to the time where you had the best time with your family.
Sweetness, right? Sweet sauce, sweetness. He's got it all.
He does. Well,
Sweetness.
And what I've learned through all this though is the hard part is because we're basically the same age, like. All these cards that we bought and collected, they made like a gazillion of them, so they're not like worth anything, which is crazy to think about. So now this new age of stuff and everything that's going on, they're worth a lot more. But yeah, that's what it was. It's that nostalgic of doing that and opening with your family and your pops, and getting to do that with my son and Austin, and it's been really fun. But now in this new age of stuff, Shannon, I mean, you mentioned the Gators and everything else, and obviously it's been a couple of bad years football wise, but like just NIL in general, and you being a business owner and all this other stuff, like it's crazy to think that now you guys can support the offensive lineman or do different things. And I know that there's so many different ways to do all this. I bet you wish you still played, right? Like you guys would have crushed it in the NIL world.
I always believe in progression. I believe in guys having it better than we did, right? And part of me thinks, being a first-team All-American, there could have been so many more opportunities, even to have those sort of things, such as my own line of cards and my own line of memorabilia, if you will. But the good news is that it's here and it's now. And even if you don't make it, and a lot of guys don't have the opportunity to go on and play at the next level in the NFL and get that opportunity, they still can make a great living, and they can capitalize off that name, image, and likeness in college or even in high school nowadays for Florida, Texas, and a lot of ones that are adapting that. So I think that's a real success story. I think it's kind of like a lot of hard work that the guys before them built, right? A lot of them we don't. And for myself, I'm not jealous. I actually love seeing, there's a lot of money for a lot of these young men to really form a good base for their future and moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to think like, we have signings in the shop, right? And we have these guys come in
Mhm.
sometimes. And I mean, shout out to DJ Lagway earlier in January. But, he pulls up in a Lamborghini SUV. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, is money even a thing for some of these guys? You know what I mean? It's crazy how well some of these guys have done it. But I like to think a little bit more about the guys that maybe aren't pushing Lamborghinis, right? They're actually making something for their family back home. They were able to get money directly in their pocket to help themselves out in their future, right? And maybe they don't make the next level. Maybe they don't get to the NFL and they aren't drafted, but they had that opportunity to market themselves. And I think it teaches us a lot about how you can push forth for your own brand and pushing forth and making in that. So thinking a little bit about that and what you've done. You are a man of many hats, right? Football, pit master, all the things that you've done. I wanted to kind of get some thoughts from you. You could share all the pros and all the amazing things that you've gone through, whether you be on the Today Show or they putting you on YouTube, Sonny's putting you got all these things going on. But I'd love to know kind of maybe one of the biggest maybe not blunders, but maybe something that you've learned in barbecuing that maybe listeners here who are getting into barbecuing and guys who, go out in their backyard or are trying to, make something for themselves and for their families. What is something that you've learned maybe that, that we wouldn't necessarily, put past somebody, like maybe some tips that you could share with our listeners?
Yeah, so a lot of times people start off really tough with barbecue. And listen, I've been doing it 19 years and I've had my blunders. I've had times where I've struggled where, and certain cuts of meat, especially with barbecue, can be pretty expensive. That's if you go out and get a Wagyu brisket, I mean, you're paying 270, 280 bucks. My single biggest piece of advice to somebody is just first of all do what fits the crowd. Listen, if you have kids at home, they're gonna love hot dogs and hamburgers, right? They're not gonna love brisket. I promise you. I got a daughter at home. I got a daughter at home that absolutely hates brisket because I cook it all the time. Now everybody else loves it, but she's just not a brisket fan because she's more of a simple palate, right? Um, so do what fits the crowd. And number two, really, is that start slow. Barbecue is kind of like an evolution, it's a journey. There's no one way to do it. The way that I do barbecue is different from some of the guys that I've learned from. A lot of times I take what I've learned from them and I make it my own. And I suggest that to everybody is that there's no one single way to do it. There's a new age of sous vide stuff now where you're doing something in water really low and slow, right? You're cooking it and then you're cooling it down, then you're sous videing it. Same thing with steaks and stuff. There's a new age in barbecue. There's a barbecue fusion that's happening. You guys see, there's a lot of things that happen with barbecue and Asian. Like you see Asian inspired dishes and Chinese inspired dishes. So barbecue fusion is really big nowadays. But instead of hopping into that boat or hopping on a take or turning on the latest YouTube video and trying that stuff, start slow. Find some chicken wings, right? Super Bowl and playoffs are coming up pretty soon, and my Cowboys aren't going to be in it. That really sucks. But try some try some chicken wings. Chicken wings are great because it's a really thin bone in meat. You can do them a bunch of different ways. Once you start to master things, start to move on to the next step. Hey, what do I feel like is going to be tougher? What do I feel like is going to be the next toughest protein or next toughest side? If you start at one thing, and always write down your notes. A lot of times when you start, you're like, hey, I can replicate this, and then you forget what you did because you added five different things that you didn't know during a cooking time, right? Have like a little Rolodeck or have something on your phone where you can take down notes and that's important because the easier it is for you to replicate it, the better it is, the more consistency that you can create with it. So I also just start slow, work your way up the chain, right? Chicken, after that ribs. At the end of the line should be brisket, prime rib, the really expensive cuts of meat that's going to cost you a lot of money that you really don't want to screw up.
Yeah, can't do that. And I can't have Dak and CD screw up either. So I got him on one of my fantasy teams, so they need to keep going. CD needs to get back from concussion protocol. So we'll be all right. All these things too, barbecue wise, has taken you really all over the country, and it has to be pretty cool. I mean, you get to do these tailgates in different spots, and I know your heart's in Gainesville with the Gators, and you've seen this tailgating scene. But is there another one out there that you were like, holy cow, this is actually pretty legit? Like, what was another one out there that was like, this place is pretty special?
I hate to say this, Jeff, and it's going to kill me, but the University of Georgia. Wow, these guys, if you go to Athens, man, they know how to throw a party. And I've been to Baton Rouge, LSU. Listen, if you're there at nighttime, it's great. But when I went to even traveling through Atlanta, Georgia Tech, that entire area in the Georgia area, they really take football seriously. And they make it a big event. Think about how Texans do with the Friday night football, where they close down the town and there's not a lot going on. Athens, there's not a lot going on when it's game day. The red and black are really out there big time, and it was really impressive. And they really know how to treat visitors. Even though I was a Gator, I had on Gator colors. They weren't really down with that, but they know how to treat people, right? There's barbecues going on all around. There's cool events. They're all having all sorts of like special guests that come in. A lot of the players and a lot of the alumni, not only alumni, but the people that have grown up there, different rappers and media personalities show up, and they show up big in Athens. It's really a really fun scene.
Yeah, I know college football's always been big, and obviously, you guys won a lot here, so it's kind of weird to see it not happening right now. But did you ever imagine like it was going to get just as big as it is? Because of, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, again, just being in Vegas, and you see how passionate people were walking into a sports book, and that's all they were doing. It's got to be fun to watch, knowing the sport you played is just maybe the biggest in the world.
Well, it is now. And you think about that, you just said it, sports book, and there's a lot going on with like the daily sports betting, and sports betting has been a big part of what started to happen. So I think that plays into it with football season, and especially this time of year in the college football playoffs. You have the NFL about to go into the playoffs, and even high school sports. They're just starting Florida is starting the Florida High School Athletic Association starting the playoffs. So the state finals are coming up this week. So there's a lot of it's always a fun time of year for myself, but for a lot of people that follow football, that follow sports, right? Basketball season is rolling. This is typically the sports time of year for America, right? This is the fun time. You just came out of October for baseball, and October, it's really a great time of year to be a sports fan. Because if you're a baseball fan, if you're a football fan, if you're a basketball fan, this is what you look forward to. Like when you get into June and July and all that good stuff, it's not fun because the only thing you might catch on TV is golf, and I love golf, right? I'm a big Rory fan, but sometimes it's not as exciting or as fast paced as this time of year where you get to see some really exciting and cool games.
Yeah, no, he's spot on. I grew up in a place, Shannon, called Rockledge High, and our rival was Cocoa High, and that was actually the barbecue bowl. And I just remember these memories of walking into that game growing up in high school and watching, and the smells, right? The smells that just came out of, and it just triggered something, right? It got you amped up. And you talk about, traveling, and it's the community aspect of barbecue, the community aspect of tailgating, has transformed, I think, the experience to make it even more nostalgic in this day and age, like you said. And it's amazing to think about these things. But I got to ask you a question, because there's a guy who's a little closer up there to South Carolina. We have a shop up in South Carolina. He's a big favorite up there. His name's Xavier Leggett. Now, this fella talks about eating raccoon all the time, and he's a nut, and he talks about he's a true country boy. Can never hardly understand him. But I wanted to ask you, kind of, what's been the weirdest or strangest meat that you've ever cooked, and I want to know how it came out.
Possum.
Okay.
We cooked possum before, and listen, it's not for everybody. It's a delicacy, right? There's a way that you have to cook it. I had a guy passed away, used to work for me back in Gainesville, and we used to have these possums that we had to get rid of off of the property, right? And he said, "Don't worry, I'll catch it." So he put these possum traps out there. They were actually raccoon traps, but he caught possums. He caught everything in it. He caught the possum, and I just remember one morning him coming back in with some meat, right? I don't know what it is. He's like, "Hey, can I put this on a smoker?" Now he was old country boy, right? And in his 70s, 80s. And he said, "Can I put this on the smoker?" Not thinking, I said, "Yeah, absolutely, whatever, I don't care." So he puts it on the smoker, it comes off, and he said, and one of my prep cooks says, "Hey, Shannon, you want to taste this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I just want to see what he smoked." I tasted it. I was like, "Oh, it's decent. Not something I would, write home to mom about, but it's decent. It was edible." I said, "What is it?" He said, "It's possum." You remember the possums I caught the other day? I was like, "Oh my God, what the hell did you feed me?" So I was like, this is like why would we, like, ain't no telling what a possum eats. He's like, no. So he had a process where he said, you have to take the possum home, you have to skin it, right? You have to cut it down, all that stuff. And then you have to boil it in some vinegar because the vinegar gets rid of some of the gamey taste out of it and some of the stuff that has been eating. I didn't get sick, but I'll never eat it again. He said if you put a good possum gravy over the top, it's fantastic, but I don't even want to know what's in that. So
I don't even want to know about possum gravy.
Yeah, possum gravy sounds like terrorist behavior. I don't know about that. So
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be something you would hang on the wall, by any means. So, like, as we talk to, all these former athletes too, like, some of them, the wives don't let them have a man cave, or they've got to keep their, cool stuff tucked away in a box. Like, do you get to have a guy sports room being a part of all this stuff? Do you have some cool things you get to have out?
It's funny because I'm not big on the man caves, right? I have a PlayStation 5 in a room. I have some stuff, but my wife Kim, she's amazing because she took my jerseys and she framed them and she did all that stuff. They're super proud. My kids didn't know a whole lot that dad was an All-American and I played in the league for a few years. They were like, a lot of people say that when we're passing, they're like, oh, your dad's so cool. You're like, oh, no, he's just dad. He's not as cool as you think he is. Right. And that's fine. But my wife is super cool. So in our office in the front of our house, she's hung all my jerseys. She's hung my high school All-American stuff. She's hung like a lot of stuff that kind of made it very man cave-ish. So I think that's really cool because it kind of explains me from the past to the kids and stuff like that. Anybody that walks in, it's like the cool. And my dad's Buccaneers jerseys up there, his Pittsburgh Steelers jersey and his helmet are there. So it's actually starting to turn into a man cave without me even knowing that it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm thinking about man caves, and we're kind of in a man cave here as well, right? With the Spurriers and all the helmets behind us and what he's done here. You had a unique experience. You got to play with Coach Spurrier and then the transition to Coach Hook, right? So I'd love to kind of know a little bit about that transition for you, kind of seeing the end of the Spurrier, regime here in Gainesville. What was that like as a player, and what did you kind of notice about that era?
Well, I got to be around the team really since 1998, right? That was during some of the really cool years. It was 2 years post the national championship game. So I think, without really saying it, I had a lot of schools recruiting me. I was a Gator. I don't think it was really ever in conversation that I was going to go anywhere else. I wanted to play for Steve Spurrier. Steve Spurrier he talked crap and, he was brash and he was confident. And that was all me. I was like, I love that. My high school coach was somewhat like that. So getting a chance for him to come in and offer a scholarship and all that, I had to play it cool, but in the same breath as that, I knew. I didn't tell them right off the bat. Buddy Tevens, who passed away, just a couple years ago, he was my recruiting coordinator. And I remember him coming into the living room that day and Steve Spurrier in his unassuming way had said, hey, Shannon, if you come to Florida, you can play for us, but that's not guaranteed. You got to have good grades. You look smart, but I don't know. I've seen different. And he's like, but if you go somewhere else, just letting you know that the Florida Gators are going to kick your butt. And it was kind of funny because I said, hey, okay, coach, I think I want to play for you. He's like, well, cool. If you do. If you don't, you don't. Whatever. I don't care. So he kind of left that day and I ended up going to the Gators. So the first 2 years playing for him, it was the run and gun, the fun and gun. It was so fun playing in that offense with guys like Rex Grossman and Jesse Palmer and coming in with that class with Brock Berlin. We were the Berlin Wall. It was the number one ranked recruiting class. And there were so many expectations that we had. It was so amazing. The unfortunate fact is that, he left 2 years later for greener pastures, whatever that may have been. Can't hold that against him. He wanted to coach some pro ball. He wanted to do that. But at the end of the day, playing for Steve Spurrier was a lifelong dream, right? It was great. It was fun. It was what I wanted to do. And a Ron Zook, you got to give Ron Zook credit for taking the job when nobody else wanted it. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of hesitation by a lot of people having to fill Steve Spurrier's shoes, and I get it. Even being this age, I'm 43 now, but younger me was like, man, I hate this, and I wasn't a big Zook fan. Anybody that knows me knows I wasn't a big Zook fan, right? But I think we give him credit for doing what he did when he did it, and having to step into those shoes and really having some decent. In hindsight, right?
Yeah.
8-5 is what any Gator would want nowadays. Right, 8-5 is a really good season. Yeah, for sure, 100%. Me especially. Like 8-5 is a great season nowadays. So, with tale of two different cities, and I didn't enjoy Steve Spurrier leaving. Right, I was, when a coach comes into the living room and tells you, "Hey, I'll be there all 4 years," You kind of expect it, but at the end of the day, he has to do what's best for him and his family. Ron Zick did the best he could, but I don't think I would ever give up the experience. Somebody asked me, would I do it different? Would I transfer out? Brock Berlin went down to Miami. There's some guys that transferred out. Would I do it different? No, being a Gator is a Gator. And that's the cool part about it, is that it really formed the later parts of my life. Not so much the there and now, the later parts of my life where I don't think I could have made the same connections in Tallahassee, Notre Dame, and Ann Arbor that I made at the University of Florida, especially in the Gainesville region.
Yeah, 100%.
Great perspective.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. As you sit there and talk about that too, I'm imagining just being in a huddle, next to some of these guys, and obviously there were some great quarterbacks, but I think we see it from a high school level now. Like you can see like the kid that has the right mindset or he gets it and he understands like, damn, that kid's going to be pretty damn good. So like you having that want and that personality, wanting to talk smack, do all that other stuff. I don't think we see that a ton now. Like, how important is that? Because a lot of kids listen and they're learning about cards or different things. But I think it's fun to, reveal. Even for me, it's like when I stepped over that white line. I mean, I was the nicest guy in the world off the field, but I wanted to kick the living brains out of you. Like when I was over that white line, is that the mentality you have to have because you're in the SEC or you're playing in the league? Like to just have that mindset of like, hey, I'm better than you.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff, you probably just put it eloquently there, is that it's a different age. Like there used to be, it's kind of like professional wrestling, right? Professional wrestling, guys didn't, if you were a heel, you didn't convert guy out on the streets, right? They made everything so separate.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't talk to that person. You didn't train with that person. Like it was very much looked down on, looked bad on that a guy would do that. Well, nowadays, they're collaborating together. They're making it more of a show. I wouldn't say it's like that now, but you see a lot of these guys in the NFL, in the league, in college, and high school. These guys train with each other. I think the goal is obviously to try to capitalize off of with NIL, is to capitalize and to make yourself the best football player possible, capitalize in the beginning, and really try to earn yourself a spot. Because nowadays, it doesn't really matter if you're first-round picks or first-round picks, right? If you're drafted. But if you're being drafted in later rounds, these guys are carving out really great niches that you weren't able to carve out a long time ago. And I think I think that mentality of, hey, you got to keep everything so silent. You can't talk to this guy. You got to rip his head off. There's a professionalism to the game now, even in college, where a lot of things that existed a long time ago don't exist anymore, and even the rules have changed to make it that way. There's no more of those headshots and those hits where you're hitting guys that it disables them and they can't play the next week. I think there's a safetyness to the game that makes it a little bit more entertaining, and it's probably a necessary evil because there's billions and billions of dollars on sports betting now and fantasy football and a lot of different things, and heck, a lot of avenues were built. A lot of shows on TV that you see nowadays, podcasts, are built off the fact that guys are being around and quarterbacks are protected, and so it's a really big business. And I think a lot of guys, the younger guys especially, are starting to understand that there's a big business behind around sports and around sports at a younger age now.
All right, so we the next thing we do is a little rapid fire. So we're going to throw a bunch of stuff at you, go back and forth. It's our Titan MRI and imaging rapid fire question. See if you can handle it. There's some that try to and they can't make it through. So, but I know you well enough. Know you're gonna knock this out of the park. All right.
All right, shoot.
All right, first one. Pancake block or 7 seconds of protection? Like, would you like to do better, run block or pass block?
Run block. If any offensive lineman tells you different, then he's not a real offensive lineman.
All right, your favorite cut of meat to cook?
Brisket, 100%.
We're not getting all you can eat chicken. We're getting all you can eat brisket.
Yeah, his brisket.
You get the brisket. It's legend. Yeah. It's stuff of legends.
He said it's legendary. He said shadur. He said legendary. Wow.
Legendary.
And speaking of legends,
it's legendary.
yeah, it's there. Just you mentioned Sonny passing, the impact he had on your life. I mean, I think everybody that drives down Waldo Road in Gainesville or comes through is like, hey, there's the original Sonny's or something like that. Like that has to be special just to obviously have known the man that made this just ginormous brand.
Yeah, man. It's yesterday was a tough day. he was somebody that somebody put it best. I was having conversations all day. Somebody put it best is that he's impacted lives to the point that he doesn't even know. It could have been a simple conversation, somebody that could have did some work for him, and it's even like a 5-second conversation. If you've been around North Central Florida or really anywhere in Florida that Sonny's is open, it's been almost like a bucket list item to meet Sonny Tillman. And, I've had, the pleasure of not only meeting him, but actually sitting down with him, having long conversations. One day I remember coming out, I'd been drinking a lot the night before, let's just put it that way. And I came in the next day, he wanted to just talk to me. We sat down and had a 5-hour conversation about life and barbecue and, my plans. And, it was, so yesterday was a tough day because that man, he really impacted my life, but I can only imagine those folks that knew him for years and years and years, how much he impacted their lives.
No, well said. Well said. Yeah. All right. Moving along in the Titan MRI rapid fire here with Shannon Snell. You got a video out on YouTube. Tools of the trade, must have barbecue tips. I'm sure this is a video that Sonny's even instilled in you. I want to see if you know off the top of your head, best guess how many views that video has today.
Yeah. Let's say it's got to be tools. Let's say 250,000.
Ooh, I will say let's go with that number. It's a little less than that, but that's a lot of views. That's 250,000 views.
That's a lot of views.
Hey, that's a good business owner right there. Even though it's at 53,000, he's gonna get to 250,000 soon. That's what I'm talking about.
5 times more. Come on, boy.
Let's go, baby. Let's go. 5X it.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Bring it.
Get it running.
Well, and maybe this will help people listening. Like, what's the most underrated tool that needs to be used if you're cooking up something sweet?
A thermometer. A thermometer you need a good thermometer, and a lot of times it's a guideline. You need it for chicken, and you need it for turkey, you need it for poultry to keep it safe. But sometimes it's a great guideline to know what temperature you should be aiming for. Not every piece of protein is the same. So sometimes you have to temp each one to make sure it's in a good spot. If it feels like room temperature peanut butter, it slides in and out, the probes in and out really well. So that thermometer is a must. This is an essential. I have a thermometer anytime I'm cooking on a barbecue.
There you go.
Don't be using the mama thermometer when you have a little flu. You got to get a good thermometer barbecue pit.
You got to get a good thermometer.
There we go. All right, Shannon. Most hated rival: FSU, Tennessee, or Plant City High?
It's none of the above. It is actually the Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh, okay. So the best barbecue, but also the most hated rival. I like this.
Yeah, I can't stand the dogs. Listen, if one of them drove off a bridge, I wonder how short the pier is. So that's just what it is. Not a big fan of them.
Yeah, right there with you. But a place that you were a fan of here, like you guys as offensive linemen, we had Gator dining. You could do all that, but is there like a restaurant you guys went in and then like people look at you like, oh, holy crap, the line's here, like we're gonna run out of food?
Napolitanos. Daffy's was the best.
Yeah.
We would go on every Thursday night, or we would go Friday. We would go every Thursday night. The offensive line would, and we felt like we would eat them out of chicken wings. Their chicken wings were so underrated, and they took care of us there. They were a good group. Napolitanos was number one.
Nappies.
Yeah, they were
back
great.
in the day. All right, I got to know from the pit master himself, what is the GOAT barbecue side item?
If anybody tells you anything other than mac and cheese, then they are lying to you. Mac and cheese, listen, it's if you're in charge of the turkey and the ham or something at a barbecue at Thanksgiving, then you're doing well, right? If you go to a barbecue, you can do brisket. Hey, you may be specializing in that, but there's only one person there that can do mac and cheese. If they screw that up, they can't sit at the table with you. They got to go sit at the kids' table. They can't. Mac and cheese is sacred. Yeah, the mac and cheese is sacred.
That is awesome.
Love it.
It's legit.
Who's the toughest dude that you lined up against? Like you looked at him on the other side, he's just giving you a fit all day long. Do you remember one?
There's two. One in the league, Luther Ellis, who played for the Detroit Lions. Luther Ellis was an unbelievable player, just a big, just massive dude. And Darnell Dockett from Florida State. He was a light in the butt kind of guy. He was only like 280, 285, but God, he was small. He was stout at the point of attack, and he was really shifty. He was really good hips. So he was a tough one to deal with.
You are a man of many smells. You know what savory smells, all the different types of smells you get from the meats. I want to know from you, what is the more intense smell, the locker room or a smokehouse?
Okay, so there's you have to context wise, the locker room before a game or the locker room after a game,
Ooh,
or
you
after
tell me.
practice.
Yeah,
The
after.
locker
After.
the locker room after practice is 100% on is at the top of the list.
That is an intense place to be.
It is. It's not in a good way. So,
I'm I'm trying to think of just the best way to put this, but you mentioned you got a PS5, and I know you're a gamer. You're legit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't play much. Like I'm playing like Double Dribble on Nintendo. Back in the day, that's kind of like the extent of my stuff. Like if we went and played Madden right now, like what would the score be?
you'd lose probably 70. Depends on our teams, right? Because there is some range there, right? But you probably lose 4 minute, 5 minute quarters, depending on what that is. You'd probably lose 40 to 50 to nothing. You wouldn't score on my defense.
Hey Shannon, so I remember back in the day in college, 07 came out with Vic. Remember Vic, Madden 07?
I do.
I think that was the hit stick year as well. So I think you'd be laying a few hit sticks down on Jeff here.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it wouldn't be. Listen, I was ranked for a long time. I was ranked in the top 100 in the world in Madden. So it was one of those things that I just became just natural. Football players, they want to be able to play Madden. Madden was always, when that game came out, we were always playing it. And I've always kind of kept up on it and all that good stuff. Last couple of years, it hasn't been as much, but I'm still one of those dudes.
How have the graphics? We talk about cards changing over the years, but how have the graphics changed over the years? Like it's pretty legit now, isn't it?
It is, man. It started off with kind of like the cartoonish look, right? The 2-bit, like what you see on something like a Nintendo. But here lately, the last couple of years has been some of the same because the graphics are so realistic. I know, one time my wife came into the room, she didn't know I was playing a real football game. She thought it was something on TV. She saw the controller in my hand. So, and shout out to all the folks over at EA Sports and, what they do. I mean, it's unbelievable how they really capture the realistic value of what football looks like nowadays.
Yeah, you have to check out the YouTube video where I think it's his old Hispanic grandma's watching a Grand Theft Auto replay of a car crash, and she really believes it's that. And she's like, and the kids are just laughing because it's from the video game. All right, I got another food one for you. Can't be your own because we know that's how you'd answer this one, and it probably is true. But what is the best barbecue you've had outside of your own?
Outside of my own and outside of Sonny's, you mean?
Yeah, outside of Sonny's, outside of your own.
Let's see. Franklin's Barbecue in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Unbelievable. Yeah, you got a beef ribs there, and a lot of barbecue you get in Texas is phenomenal. But Franklin, he's one of the best pit masters on earth. He does things to very much a science. He has a master class that you can take, but his barbecue joint, they got some heat, legit heat.
Okay.
Over the years, has that been fun to kind of collaborate? You're a sports community forever, and obviously you got to be a part of teams, and you have your own team now, but just learning that process and kind of picking each other's brains of what works, what doesn't work. Was that fun for you?
It is. It's fun because it's a lot of times you can give everybody the recipe, but you still got to know the process. You still have to be able to execute it, and I think that's everybody, and I think that's really what's worked well for me. You just take a little bit, you add on to it, it's really about experimenting too. I think that's the biggest part of it. If you don't experiment, then you're outside the game. I think a lot of times everything was so faux pas, just like sports, right? People lock things off, and Spurrier's fun and gun offense. Steve, if you ask Steve Spurrier back in the day, if anybody's ever asked him for his offensive game plan or how he does stuff, he said, "Yeah, I would have been willing to give it up, but they still can't do what I can do." Sure. Right, because he has to execute it, right? And in the same breath, that's the same in my world.
The production here is nothing special. Zach throws our two ugly mugs on the camera, and then we zoom into you, and that's how it's going. But like when you went to New York, what was that production like? They're throwing you on national TV, doing all these other things. Like, was it a whole big deal for just a couple of minutes?
It was. They had actually had a food chef that they employ behind the scenes, and she was fantastic. I got with her a week ahead of time, and she took my recipes and she made them, and
Mm.
she gave feedback, and so she really liked them, which was even better. But she was
Yeah.
like somebody that had been a food chef for years. But then you have multiple portions of the stage. You have a very much a big timing gap that you have to have stuff done. The production when they're shooting stuff on film and it being live was so nerve wracking because a lot of times when it's live, you can't take it back. So I've done stuff under film. I've done stuff where you can kind of redo. That particularly was great because it was one of my first. I've done a couple. I've done one on CNN. I've done a couple of others, but that one was probably the biggest. And being in New York and watching everybody behind, watching us inside the studio was really cool. Like one of the bucket list things for me, and everybody actually got to just chat with a lot of the hosts and everybody afterwards. And Carson Daly and I really kind of really hit it off on stage, right? They had to tell us to shut up and film because we were just talking too much. But it was really one of the most entertaining spots that I've ever done in my life. So
Did they make you put on makeup?
no, they asked, and I told them no, I'm not putting on makeup. I
That a
was like, you
baby.
just got to go with the shiny
Hold
forehead or
strong.
whatever it is. I got to hold strong. I mean, I thought about it, but I was like, you know what? This is the natural. Like you get this. What you see is what you get.
What you see is what you get. Well, you brought up just all these different types of things that you've been a part of. Let the people know how they can follow you, Shannon. Like, I mean, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Instagram. I know people are going to want to kind of dive into your world a little bit more.
Sure, you can follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it nowadays, at THEE Big Boss SS at Twitter, and then on Instagram it's Relationship Ribs. I'm always posting there. Probably the latest post you'll see some tribute stuff to Floyd Sonny Tillman. It's really cool, and follow that. I mean, he's a pioneer. One of the reasons I got into barbecue is because of that gentleman there, and he really left his mark on me and the world. So check that out. But I always say some stuff is very much me unfiltered. So what you see is what you get, but it'll be a good time.
Well, to close this out, I think it's fitting here in our rapid fire segment. I was going to ask you for maybe some advice that you've learned over the years, but I want to ask you a little bit more, maybe something that you can share with us that Sonny instilled in you to our listeners, whether it be pertains to barbecue, whether it pertains to the football field, or just life in general. What would be something you'd like to share?
It's life in general. A lot of times is, what I leave on this earth is, there's a legacy that you have to leave. And I think for him, he left a huge legacy on people. Anybody that's ever met that man, has ever shook his hand, always spoke about his character and what kind of person he was. And listen, one of the reasons I did the barbecue drive-throughs, the barbecue drive-bys, and I'm so giving with my time is because guys like that is that I want to leave a legacy of, somebody else passing it forward, someone else being kind, somebody else doing for something for somebody when they can't do it for themselves. And that's the way that the world goes around. Like we'll be in a better place if, there's no more fighting, there's no more dissension among one of us. And he left. And listen, I'm not saying Sonny was perfect, but I got to tell you, his legacy is going to live on for a long time about the person he was and not the barbecue he created.
Well said. Man, you always say it well. Love hanging out with you, man. Appreciate the time here. And, I think for everybody listening, obviously you see how sincere he is. There's a passion in everything that Shannon does. And, the most important part is, he's not going to hold anything back. That's what you've always done. And, that's what's made you so successful. So keep it going, buddy.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate y'all having me on, man.
All right. The great Shannon Snell. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue talking some more cards. New wax coming out. We'll do that when we come back on the Meelypod Hobby Podcast. Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan
written first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, well, the break was certainly warranted. You talking about all that barbecue, and I had to run over to the bathroom, like just wipe my face off, and salivating and doing all these other things.
He said brisket, and he just like powered that brisket. I'm like, we got to go down there and just power through some brisket. No, it's great talking to Shannon. What a cool just life, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, someone who's talked about playing with Spurrier, and then now he's this pit master. Kind of two coaches that really, I mean, Spurrier and Sonny, Tillman, like these people in his life, and it's really cool. I can't wait to see how his restaurant really turns out and grows in Wesley Chapel.
Yeah, well, we can't wait to see the new wax. I'm sure some cool stuff coming out for the holidays, and obviously always have to tell you how great CGC is, one of the nation's leading grading companies. Submit your collectibles, your sports cards, your trading cards, your comics, your coins, your video games. CGCcards.com. Tremendous things, and I wish everybody out there happy waxing, and not on your eyebrows or your back, but
if you need
going through packs.
If you need it, get it done. But I mean, if you want to
Manscaped these days,
that's true. If you want to go to the other side of wax, which is the ones we use our hands to open up and rip, there's two releases that I really am excited about. There's a release from last week as well that I'll kind of talk about as well. But for you, Jeff, the debut patch cards have come back. Topps Chrome Update comes out this week, and Topps Chrome Update has also a new insert called Alter Ego, which is going to, I think, mirror kind of some of the downtown Kaboom stuff that we saw in Panini, and it's this kind of alter ego of nicknames, and they're really cool, like comic cards. Going to be really hard to hit, and they're going to also be in Update Chrome this year. So I do think you're going to have kind of some unique chases this year, from the update patch, the debut patches, to also those alter ego cards, and of course all the autographs and rookie cards in Chrome that people love. We also have Star Wars Chrome Galaxy, and this is a set that, speaking of art, if you're a fan of comic art or you're a fan of just artists in general, the Star Wars Galaxy Chrome sets are like a cultic set, because they have just such unique drawings and renditions of these Star Wars characters. Plus there's the sketches, plus there's the refractors, the autographs. It's always a set that just always does very, very well. It's like, I think, on their 4th or 5th iteration, and Topps has done a great job, bringing that out. And then for you anime folks, so we've talked a lot about anime today. Invincible Hollow is out, which is like a Chrome set for the Invincible anime, and it's done very, very well as well. So we have those coming out this week. Not a heavy week. It is going to pile on in these next weeks leading up into Christmas and the New Year. But as you guys know, wax is constantly changing, and there's always stuff you can find. Our website, Meelypops.com, scmeelypops.com. If you don't find it on one or the other, check the other side out. You can get some really good deals on wax for the holidays. I
know you mentioned the Advent calendars, which are always a great gift. Certainly a lot of fun. But I never asked you, like, did you any cool pulls from like Black Friday stuff or Cyber Monday? Like, any cool stories?
Oh yeah, so there's some really cool stories. We gave out 100 bags. We call them swag bags. We actually gave out more because our line was. We didn't really talk about 180 deep. Ooh. You know what I mean? That was how many people were in line. It went around the building, around the other buildings, and it was pretty wild to see that many people out. And again, it was cold that morning. People there from 5 a.m. and it was like 30 degrees.
Wow.
So really just toughing it out. Gave a lot of stuff away. The first 10 people we gave hobby boxes to, as well as these bags. But there were people that got packs in those bags. And so over the last few days and weeks, I've been getting people coming back. Hey, I pulled this and I pulled this, and it's really, really cool to see these cards that came out, all this free stuff. Somebody pulled a Vlad Guerrero that's like 1 out of every 10 cases.
Holy cow!
Patch auto. Someone pulled a Corbin Carroll out of a pack of Big League out of 25 rookie card auto, and like we gave these really cool Meelypops slabs that you can put a card in, and they look like a card slab. And then we put a little Meelypops insert on the top instead of like a PSA. It just says Meelypops.
Perfect.
And so people have put them in there and bringing them in. So it's been fun just kind of seeing that. There's been some really, really fun pulls from that. And then, of course, we have people who bought wax that day that have shown me some of the stuff they got. And let's just say people did very well.
Good. You never know. I think that's the coolest part about this. Never know who we're going to get. So that's why you got to tune in, tell your friends about it, all the social media ways to follow us, and then have a good time. So we'll do it again next week. Got another nice guest to wow everybody with to finish up the year.
Yeah, check it out. Next week we'll be talking with a hobby fella. His name's Brian, part of Ship My Cards. It's such a unique business that he does. He also is a card shop owner now, but he has, I think he told me 35,000 different customers worldwide. He is probably the #1 worldwide networker of getting cards out, and it'd be very interesting to kind of for you guys to hear this perspective on where the card market is and how cards get to people in places like China, right? In places like the Middle East. So we'll talk through that.
All right. Well, we're going to get out ourselves. For Jameel, I'm Jeff. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. And thanks for tuning in to the Meelypod Hobby Podcast.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Thursday at noon.